PodCastle, episode 835, for the 16th of April 2024. Tales from the Vaults, Titanic, by Levi Tidhar, read by Ian Stewart, produced by Eric Valdes, rated PG-13 with a content warning for violence. Greetings, fellow beings of all dimensions, and welcome to PodCastle. I'm co-editor Eleanor R. Wood and your host for this week's episode, standing in for the indomitable Matt Dovey. A quick reminder before we begin that PodCastle is currently open to stories and narrator auditions for our special Palestinian Voices call, in love and solidarity during this time of appalling injustice in Gaza. All details are currently pinned to the top of our website and will be open to these submissions until the 22nd of April. Our only special requirement for this call is that you are a creative of Palestinian heritage. We are honoured to be able to read your words and hear your voices, so please do submit something to us before we close next week. This week we are delving into the vaults to bring you a timely piece. Yesterday marked the 112th anniversary of the sinking of the Titanic, a tragedy that has sparked the creative imagination ever since it occurred. This story is no exception. Just think less James Cameron and more Robert Louis Stevenson. PodCastle is very proud to present Titanic, written by Levi Tidhar, originally published in Apex magazine, and first appearing on PodCastle as episode 304. Today's story was written by Levi Tidhar. Levi Tidhar is author of Osama, The Violent Century, A Man Lies Dreaming, Central Station, Unholy Land, By Force Alone, The Hood, The Escapement, Neom, and Maror. His latest novels are Adama and The Circumference of the World. His awards include the World Fantasy and British Fantasy Awards, the John W. Campbell Award, the Newcomb Prize, and the Jerwood Prize, and he has been shortlisted for the Clark Award and the Philip K. Dick Award. Your reader today is Ian Stewart. Ian Stewart is the golden-voiced father of the equally golden-voiced Alistair Stewart. A writer-performer living in York, he has done work for the BBC and Manx Radio, as well as audiobooks, historical guides, and promotional videos. He is also a storyteller guide for the Ghost Trail of York, taking tourists around the city and telling them some of its darker secrets. You can read more about his poetry and his dog, Digby, on his blog, The Top Banana. Now, please don your life jackets, make sure they're securely fastened, and enjoy the story.
Titanic, by Levi Tidhar. When I come on board the ship, I pay little heed to her splendour, nor to the gaily strewn lines of coloured electric lights, nor to the polished brass of the crew's uniforms, nor to the crowds at the dock in Southampton, waving handkerchiefs and pushing and shoving for a better look, nor to my fellow passengers. I keep my eyes open only for signs of pursuit, specifically for signs of the law. The ship is named the Titanic. I had purchased a second-class ticket in London the day before. I had travelled down to Southampton by train. I had packed hurriedly. I do not know how far behind me the officers are. I know only that they would come. He had made sure of that in his last excursion. The corpses he left were a mockery. Body parts ripped, exposed rib cages and lungs stretched like Indian rubber. He had turned murder into a sculpture, a form of grotesque art. The Japanese would call such a thing as he a kai, a monster, otherworldly and weird, or perhaps a kaiju. I admire the Japanese for their mastery of the science of monstrosity, of what in our Latin would be called the lusus naturae. I have corresponded with Dr. Yamane of Tokyo for some time, but have of course destroyed all correspondence when I escaped from London. And yet I cannot leave him behind. I had packed hurriedly a simple change of clothes. I had not dressed like a gentleman, but I carry, along with my portmanteau, also my doctor's black medical bag. It defines me more than I could ever define myself otherwise. It is as much a part of me as my toes, or my navel, or my eyes. And inside the bag I carry him, all that is left of him, one bottle, that is all. And the rest were all smashed up to shards back in London, back in the house, where the bodies are. I present my ticket to the steward. There is no suspicion in his eyes. He smiles courteously, professionally, already not seeing me as he turns to the ones behind me, and then I am on board. Perhaps infected by the other passengers' gaiety, perhaps just relieved at my soon-to-be escape, I stand with them on the deck against the railings, shouting and waving at the people we are soon to leave behind. My heart beats faster, my palms sweat. I am eager for us to depart, for our transatlantic journey to begin. I long for escape. At last it happens. The horn sounds, and the gangplanks are raised, and we are off. I sigh with relief. I had not realized how tense I had been, but fear had taken its hold on me in all the long years of living with him. His presence in my life had made me fearful for the day he would get careless, or go too far, or leave me to be captured. No longer. England is a cesspit of corruption. It is too small, too confining. It looks not to the future, but to the past. It is rigid and unyielding. It is time for me to look elsewhere, to the new world, where a scientist may work in peace, where there is space to grow, and where he, too, could roam more freely. For it is a vast land, and people may disappear there more easily and never be seen again. Yes, he could be controlled there. But for now, he is dormant within me. He will not emerge on this voyage. Not unless I will it. A near accident. Our huge bulk causes waves in the harbour. We nearly drown two smaller ships, the SS City of New York and the Oceanic. I watch them rise on the waves, thinking of the size and power of the Titanic, like the power that I, myself, hold within me. It is a power all human beings have, yet I alone have found the means of liberating it. Only in Japan, perhaps, is their science greater than mine. That land is far, and their experiments have taken them in a different direction to my own. No, I am confident in my heart. My potion is unique, and I, a true original. The passage out goes without further hitch. The two smaller ships are not harmed, and I feel neither satisfaction nor disappointment. I stand on the deck and watch the harbour recede from view for a long time. I watch England grow smaller in the distance. I cannot wait for it to disappear. 11th of April, 1912. Cork. How I loathe the Irish! The docks swarm with these Irishmen and their equally squalid women. They come on board, several obviously drunk and singing riotously. I stand on the deck and smoke a cigar. A man of middle years and a somewhat stooped posture engages me in conversation. "You're a doctor?" he says, on noticing my black bag. I do not dare part with it. These Irishmen may steal a doctor's bag as easily as they would slit a man's throat. Yes, I say, what is it to you? Instead of taking offence, he chuckles good-naturedly. "I myself am in the medical profession," he says. I say, "Oh?" and roll the cigar in my mouth. "Yes," he says. "I'm a purveyor of the snake oil cure. Are you familiar with that panacea?" "Enhydris chinensis," I say. "It is a medicine of the Chinese people, is it not?" I do not tell him that I had studied it intensively. My research has increasingly taken me to study the obscure and arcane sciences of the East. "Oh, yes," he says, "it is a marvellous medicine, a cure-all." I make a dismissive gesture, and his moustache quivers at that. "Do you not agree, sir?" he says. I tap my cigar and watch the ash blow in the wind. Will the ship never leave? I am unsafe as long as we are in these European waters. Have the bodies been found yet? Has Hyde been implicated? He's well known to the police. Excuse me, I say, I meant no offence. His good humour returns. He gives me his calling card and asks me to call on him once in New York, promising me a bulk discount on his stock. It is of the utmost benefit to any doctor, he assures me. I'm glad to be rid of him. At long last the ship departs. There are thousands of us on board. 12th of April, 1912. At last, the open sea. The ocean is calm, the weather is mild, a sense of wild freedom grips me, the new world beckons. I have successfully avoided pursuit, capture. In New York I can start again, and the name of Jekyll will be forgotten. I pat my bag, thinking of the bottle it holds. Already I am craving it. In America I will make more of the potion. He wants to get out, I can feel him pushing. 13th of April, 1912. A cold front, strong winds and high waves. Nevertheless, I brave the deck. I find being confined below excruciating. The press of people is repulsive to me. I take in the sea air, but my attempts to light a cigar prove futile. Last night I tossed and turned, the need burning inside me. I could feel Edward leering inside me, pushing to be let out. I find myself regarding women with Hyde's eyes, with his hunger. I see men and think of the blood coursing through them and of the glint of knives. More than 2 decades ago, when my experiments had just begun, he and I were sloppy. Jack, they'd called him then. I had less control of the formula then. The cold air revives me. Anticipation of the new world soothes me. I feel as though I have been given a second chance. 14th of April, 1912. The sea is very calm, but there is chill in the air. It is a fine morning. I have spoken to no one. It is a lonely life sometimes, but I have him for company always. The presence of the bottle in my bag reassures me. It will not be long now. 14th of April, 1912. An ungodly crash! I'd just been climbing up to the deck when the entire ship groaned and creaked as if hit by some vast and monstrous hammer. I fell, but found my balance. My black bag was with me, and I assured myself the sample inside was intact. I hurried upstairs, finding the decks in a confusion of people. What could this mean? Sir! I hear an officer speak near me, and find myself pushed to the front, and realise the man resplendent in magnificent uniform further ahead is the captain. Sir, we've hit something. Is it an iceberg? The captain says, his manner outwardly calm. No, sir, the officer says, it isn't an iceberg, it's a... Someone screams. It is a high-pitched scream. I cannot tell if it is made by a man or a woman. Look! Look at that! Look at that thing! As if on cue, the ship's powerful spotlights come on at once, piercing the night, momentarily blinding me. I hear a terrible sound, a roar as of 1,000 engines cranking up to their utmost power and beyond their breaking point. It's a... My God, I think, awed. How could anyone mistake this for an iceberg? It towers over the ship, and the Titanic looks like a toy in comparison. An enormous, beautiful monstrosity, like a cross between a gorilla and a whale. It opens its mouth and roars, and a lizard's giant claws land with a defeating roar on the deck of the Titanic, splintering wood and cutting deep into the underlying levels. I hear screams. I see a man's head explode like a wet red balloon where the monster had crashed it in its wake. It's a daikaiju, I say, though they do not hear me. I breathe out, a giant kaiju. The scientist in me is enthralled. The beast within me is hungry. Hyde responds to the creature like a drunk. He bangs against the walls of his prison to be let out. Screams rise into the air. The monster, angered or afraid, lashes against the ship. Its powerful tail slams into the side of the ship, and the deck tilts alarmingly. Bodies fly through the air. Abandon ship! Abandon ship! Panic takes over the Titanic. To the lifeboats! A press of bodies as the ones down below attempt to climb up to the open deck to find escape. People shove and push each other in their panic. I see a woman trampled underfoot. I too try to make my way to the lifeboats, but the swell of people is too strong. And I'm old. And panic rises in me as I am sidelined, pushed, shoved, hurt, and all the while the beast roars above our heads, lashing with talons and tail at the Titanic, ripping it slowly apart. To the boats! And there they go, while unbelievably the ship's orchestra plays on, at least until the beast, annoyed perhaps by the noise, slashes at them with its claws, and the music stops abruptly with a clatter of panicked notes. The ship tilts, was sinking. I hear the boats dropping into the waters, hear a gunshot ring as officers attempt to control the manic passengers. Children and women first! And something breaks in me. Something that has no name. No label I could easily affix to it, like a specimen bottle or a beaker of potion. I can escape, I realise, and yet... Doctor! I hear the cry. We need a doctor! Please, help! A woman lying on the deck, holding an injured child in her arms. Her face is panicked. There's blood on the deck. Still holding my black medicine bag. Now I open it. All of a doctor's requirements are there. I could help them. I reach inside and find the bottle, the potion, my life's work. I could help the child, I think. Or I could let out Mr. Hyde. I stare at the bottle in my hands. To swallow its contents would liberate me, would hide me, would allow me to fight my way to the lifeboats and to escape, to live. I had lived half my life as a monster, I realise, and that had led to my eventual ruin and my disgrace, and finally my exile. I look up at that Titanic being towering over the ship. It's frightened, I think. Monstrous, yes, but also beautiful. And I'm glad I've lived long enough to see one. I look at it for a long moment, and then I look at the bottle in my hands. Please, please, help him! I could live a monster, I realise, or I could die a man. I stretch my arm as far back as it will go, then back in one smooth motion, and throw the bottle as hard and as fast as I can into the roiling sea.
And welcome back. That was Titanic by Levi Tidhar. If you enjoyed that one, Levi's most recent story with us, The Portal Keeper, was published back in January. He also had 3 previous stories with us before Titanic featured in 2014, and you can find his work at our sister podcasts Escape Pod and Pseudopod as well. I've always had a fascination with the Titanic. It's hard not to be captivated by the cruel fate of a ship so majestic, being condemned to the depths of the ocean only a handful of days into its maiden voyage. To think that it spent 4 days sailing and has been 112 years under the sea. To think of the buoyant hope and joy of its passengers as it left Southampton, anticipating whatever awaited them in America, imagining themselves forever able to say they were aboard the great ship on its very first voyage. To know that, in fact, the majority of them were only days away from a terrifying death, and that those who survived would carry the trauma for the rest of their days. to know that it wasn't even the ship's sinking, but raw human hubris that condemned them to death. Because that's the thing with Titanic, isn't it? Not that it sank on its first voyage. Not that it was the doomed flagship of one of the world's great shipping lines. But that it was the ship that couldn't sink. It was the ship that was built to defy the very nature of the sea. The ship that was supposed to conquer all danger of ocean travel. The ship that human arrogance declared untouchable. A ship that didn't carry enough lifeboats because they were a waste of space and money on a ship that would never need them. Just over halfway across the Atlantic, above an ocean depth of nearly 4,000 meters, it's almost as if the sea gods decided to slap down their paltry human challenges and remind us that we will always be at their mercy. That we traverse their realm because they allow it. That our belief that we've conquered the sea is as futile as any of our other attempts to conquer nature. Perhaps the behemoth in Levy's retelling is exactly that. A power rising out of the depths to put us firmly back in our place. We are not the rulers of our planet. We are its denizens like every other species we share it with. And 112 years on from the tragedy of the Titanic, we need to stop pretending we're invincible against the behemoths that are waiting to humble us next. That was our show for this week. On behalf of everyone at PodCastle, our audio engineers Devin Martin and Eric Valdes, your co-editors Shingai and Jerry Kagunda, and myself, Eleanor R. Wood, assistant editor Caitlin Zavanovich, host Matt Dovey, as well as all of our amazing first readers, Andrew Cahoe, Craig Jackson, Amalia Harrington, Julia Patt, Kieran Corsini, Matt Dovey, Ryan Cole, Sarah S. Messenger, Sri Kripa Krishna Prasad, Tava Nova, Tierney Bailey, and Zeev Witties. Thanks for letting us share another story with you. Be sure to share this episode with your friends, reach out to us on social media, and if you would like to keep up with all the Escape Artists podcasts, head to patreon.com/EA podcasts for more. PodCastle will be back next week with another tale. See you then.